Welcome to the LinkedIn Live. Today, this is Carina, Krehl, CDKx, and I have Henrik. And today we're going to be explaining NFTs. So if you have any NFT questions, go ahead and make sure you put them in the chat. It's going to be interactive, but we're also going to just talk a little bit about NFTs in general, explaining them. And we're going to make sure that everyone can catch the playback on Henrik's podcast. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
About the podcast, as you mentioned, my name is Henrik. My name is Henrik Fohns. I'm a Danish reporter, so I'm situated in Copenhagen, Denmark. Though I'm a bit north of the capital right now. I'm in a cottage by the sea, as you can maybe see behind.
It's lovely where it looks
And
really, really pretty.
it's it's really analog somehow, but still I'm on the internet with you. What I do is a podcast about technology, and I've been doing it for 4 years now. It's close to episode number 200, and it's published by the Danish Engineering Society, which is sort of like the American, what's it called, Triple E, the Engineering Society in the States, I think. So it's
I'm
sort
not
of the
sure.
same thing. It's a mix of a union and an NGO. And before that, prior to that, I did broadcast radio. I did a show on the Danish Broadcast Corporation, which is like the Danish BBC for, we started in 1994. And so I sort of grew up with the internet, with the World Wide Web professionally.
That's so
So I've been
cool.
covering this topic area for quite a long time. Yeah, that's a bit
Cool.
about me.
I feel like I grew up with the World Wide Web, but in a different way.
Yeah. But I
That's so,
started out in a time where you didn't really have mobile phones, and you didn't have iPads or iPhones or it was different. I had a typewriter.
I remember those days, kinda. Like, kind of. We didn't have, well, we had a typewriter, but it was more of a vintage type thing that my mom had fond memories of that I used to just sort of play with.
Mm.
Never out of necessity. That's interesting, though. So the podcast is called Techtopia, and this will be the first time we're explaining, or you're explaining NFTs to your audience, correct?
That's correct. I have covered blockchain and Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff like that
Okay.
before, but I haven't covered the NFT yet. So
Well,
it's I
then it
mean
sounds like they're
it's
prime.
sort of the same, but it's different, and I think it's a bit difficult for people to sort of grasp what is this about, and how does it work.
Yeah.
So I would like to explain it, but for my listeners, could you introduce yourself? I mean, who are
Absolutely.
you?
Yes.
Why am I talking to you?
So we met through an interview I just did about NFTs and art with Arise.io, which is a company also in Denmark. And I am an NFT artist. Well, really, I'm just an artist. NFTs are essentially a new medium that's emerging. So, naturally, as an artist that encompasses all types of mediums, and I mean literally all mediums, I'm interested in moving into the digital asset world, especially because I work in virtual reality and I am an immersive tech artist as well as a visual and concept artist. So I'll just give you the gist. I'm a Renaissance woman. So, what that means to me is that I am trained in very formal, traditional types of art making, from like oil painting to ceramics on the potter's wheel to intaglio printmaking, screen printing, and performance as well, singing and dancing, classical and interpretive. And also, I am emerging into this new tech world of art, which I actually began in 2017 in my virtual reality journey. So now it's becoming more practical to create in virtual reality, and the world is moving in that direction, and so am I. So that gives a little bit of an introduction.
So you have been creating art in virtual reality for like 4 years now?
Is that what that converts to? Yes,
Yes.
that's right. I guess it has been 3 years. Yeah, since 2017. So I'm almost a senior in that way. Like I've got my first time doing virtual reality art, I've got this memory of me logging into the program that I use and looking it up on the hub of where you would download these softwares. And there was less than 100 reviews on Tilt Brush by Google. And all the reviews, I was scrolling and it just was like, I'm not an artist, but this is going to be cool for the future. Like all these computer scientists were like, I can't wait to see what happens when real people who can draw more than a stick figure actually do this. And I was just like, my mouth was agape. Like I was just like, holy mackerel, I'm really an early adopter to this. And so it's been a really cool journey.
But
Really.
if you look at digital art, I mean, what is the difference between digital design and digital art? I mean, how do you actually put your personal mark on it and turn it into art?
Well, since it's so hard because art is so subjective, people what's the difference between design in general and art? I think it has to do with a couple of factors. Does it evoke emotion? Is it about something deep? But then again, not all art really is about something deep. So it's subjective. For me, what I can say is that everything I do is art. Like, especially being a performer, my my mom always says art is Carina, Carina is art. Like that they're interchangeable. And I agree, I have the ability to design. I can sit down and design, but what I really do in my existence is I create art. And to me, it has to do with being a conduit, it has to do with flow. And I'm pulling energy from a divine source and delivering that to this earthly plane. So to me, that's what art really is.
And it's also possible to express this through software.
Yes. And in the digital realm specifically, the reason why I was so enamored by virtual reality is because you really have the ability to paint in 360 degrees. That's different than anything we've ever seen before. And it's different than a digital piece of art as well in a 2D digital form. Because what I'm really doing is working in 4 dimensions, basically. I mean, it's like an opening of an entirely new dimension. I wouldn't even consider it 3D because there's nothing there. 3D means it has a form and it doesn't. 2D means it's flat and it's not. So it's like it is 4D. It's a layer. It's like what Carl Sagan describes. It's like it's a layer on top of the 3-dimensional world as we know it. So once I saw that, I was hooked. And that's another part of being Renaissance is it's the teachings that I pull from very esoteric and physics based, geometric and spiritual. So it's very very complex and also quite simple at the same time.
So back in the days when you started doing this 4 years ago, was it impossible to sell this kind of art?
Yeah, I mean, my entrepreneurial mind was finding ways. I sat down with a friend who's a software developer and now he's extremely successful. He like has huge clients. Like I'm talking like Google, Airbnb kind of thing. And so it's funny, like we were in college in the science library basement working on a rented machine and I was sitting with him like, how do we, because we met through innovation and entrepreneurship. That was both the minor that I got with alongside this friend. And we're sitting there talking and I was thinking, if we can just get a way to make this headset accessible to the everyday person, then there's a way to commoditize it and capitalize off of it. And so we were having these ideas, which I will expound upon in the future. And I have all in the sketchbook. I wonder, actually, right here, I'll look and see where the page is. But, I was having this idea of like, at like an art fair or at Art Basel or even a farmer's market, something along those lines, creating something like the seat to the self. And and presenting artworks that were really encompassing, that had people see. This is the main page. These are the polys that you put in the design system that you can build off of. So I was designing on that. And there's the person, the seat of the self. And so we were having all of these ideas, like the viewer is present, but they're constrained, they're the observer. And then the artwork could enter the person into a meditative state. So I've got these sketches of like, here's a chair, and then it opens you up to this virtual reality universe. And then these were like the different design ideas. So we were just scribbling stuff down. But, and it's interesting because now I live in St. Petersburg, Florida, and it's a huge arts culture here. And right before the pandemic, I was having these initiations with bringing VR to the street, because my immediate action was to discover, how do I make it accessible? So I discovered there's cardboard headsets you can put your phone in and experience that way. So I was like ready to bring it to these different art fairs and whatnot, having people sit down and just pay to, come and experience a world. But then the pandemic, and it was really impractical to the idea of us sharing headsets. Like that wasn't something I was so I totally pivoted, and now everything's completely different.
So when did you discover NFT, and maybe you should also explain what NFT stands for.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll say first, NFTs are non-fungible tokens, and I'll explain that in a second. I discovered NFTs in January, and I began educating myself about how an artist could potentially profit from this new development in the crypto world. And a non-fungible token is completely one of a kind. It is irreplicable on the blockchain. It's not fungible. So the way I explain it is like, you could go to the bank with $1 with blue ink on it, ask for a new dollar, and then they give you another dollar and it's worth $1. Like it's interchangeable, it's fungible. But the NFTs are completely one of a kind. Like the Mona Lisa is one of a kind. You could try to replicate it, but it will always be a knockoff of the Mona Lisa. It's never going to be the real thing again, because it's unique. So the NFT is a smart contract that is attached to cryptocurrency, typically Ethereum at this point in time. And the serial number attached to an art piece that exists out on these trading platforms on the blockchain in the metaverse is completely one of a kind. So even if someone downloads an image of my work, they don't own the contract. They don't own the NFT. They don't have a certificate of authenticity. It would be the same thing as them owning a picture of the Mona Lisa. You don't own the real thing.
But you can buy an NFT. I mean, I could buy your NFT and then I would own it, which would be like buying the Mona Lisa.
Yes, it would be like that. And you should buy my NFT because it is like owning the Mona Lisa. I'm just got to say that,
But,
But
but,
yeah,
but but to understand it correctly, I mean, if you have a digital object, I mean, it's you can copy it in for I mean a vast amount of different of copies, and they will all be alike. So the thing that makes it unique is the Ethereum contract, the sort of the stamp on it.
yeah, and it depends. So there are ways to make things one of one, so completely one of a kind. And then there are ways to addition works. So to make an art history comparison, I would say like my works are like the Mona Lisa, they are one of one. I will at some point make works that are like Andy Warhol, which are additions, and you could have maybe variations of the same art piece where they're all still a little bit unique, but they are the same thing. Like the Marilyn Monroe pieces are all Marilyn Monroe, but they're different colors, and that's what we would call in the art world an edition. So there are ways to do that as well. But even still, the one that you own is completely unique and irreplicable. And you can sit on it as an asset. And then there's a whole other side of it where there's a secondary market of collecting. So we can talk about that as well. But first, does that answer your question?
So, actually, when you talk about the secondary market, it means if I buy something, if I buy an NFT, I can sell it again at another market to
Yeah,
someone.
well, it's the same market basically, but it's the same marketplace, but it just exists as a secondary sale. So the secondary market would mean you're not the original creator, you bought it and now you are selling
Oh,
it, your
okay.
asset.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But could you
And
explain? Could sorry,
this
yes.
the secondary market benefits artists in a way that we've never had before, because on the secondary market you can have artists can have royalties for that sale. So when I sell my pieces to collectors, part of the contract is that once it gets sold again, I can have 15% of that sale forever. So you sell it and then someone else sells it after they've bought it from you. I would get 15% of both of those sales. And that way my art is going back to my established foundation as an artist even long after I'm gone. So that's something we've never seen before. Prior to this, you sell a piece of art through an auction house if you're lucky, and that's the last you see of it.
And you will make no more money of it. But is this possible because you write it into the contract on the blockchain that you will have
Yes.
15% every time it changes owner?
Yes, and you can really people can make whatever percentage they want for royalties, but the industry standard at this point in time is 15%.
I'm not sure whether this is correct, but I will try to ask you anyway. Is it? Did I understand it correctly that, for instance, if I buy a picture of you and I want to sell it to someone else, I could also split it into like 100 different pieces and sell it in 100 different pieces at a higher
So
price?
you're talking about tokenizing
Yeah.
or creating shares basically of the token. From what I understand, that is possible. And that's interesting because that's a foundation of a business strategy that I had been working with someone on in college, which is funny. The idea of tokenizing a piece of art and splitting it into shares, just like you could with a stock of a company.
Mhm.
Um, and now we're seeing that happen with NFTs, and I'm just like, yes, I don't have to do the work, and it's possible. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, that is a possibility. It's something that can be done. Now, your question is interesting, and I need to look into it more because I don't know that you could do that with. I think you could though. Do it with a piece of art that you bought and did not originally create. I know I could do it. Like I could be like, you can buy a share of this work of art. I'm not sure if you bought my art piece, if you could then change the foundation of the way it's contracted. But originally, if you were to mint something, yeah, from how I understand it at least. And I don't believe I'm misinformed. Um, but it is very new, and I'll be candid that I don't know everything for sure.
Well, maybe I'm just making things too complicated now. So let's
Well,
talk
I
about
think that's a good question.
how do you do it as an artist? I mean, if you have a piece of art and you want to do it, you want to make it into an NFT. What do you do? For instance, if I have a piece of music or a video of my old punk band from the '80s that no one has ever seen before, and they want to maybe I want to tokenize it. So what should you do? How do you do it?
Okay, so yeah, this is great. Technically, step by step. So you've got a piece of art. It's in an MP3 form or a JPEG form or PSD or whatever file type it is. And you have a few different options as a person selling something. So there are various marketplaces or backslash platforms, interchangeable. Um, and some of them are open and some of them are exclusive. So some of them require an invitation or acceptance of an application. And then others are anyone can sell there. Like they're like the eBay or the Amazon kind of.
And
But
I guess if you're completely unknown and not really established as an artist, you will go to the Amazons and eBays of NFT.
depending, since everyone is so new to this space, it's been a little bit in the beginning. I will say it was much easier for artists to get onto the exclusive platforms. Now it's getting harder and harder because people are becoming, in the space. um, but yeah, I mean, for those of us who are still emerging, the really exclusive platforms are still hard to get on. I know eventually I will be on whatever platforms because I'm building really, really fast and I'm seeing the results. But I do have exclusivity on a certain platform called Foundation. So I'll run through the list of the names for your viewers and from the people watching the playback of the live stream because it's really helpful to look them up. So there's Super Rare, it's very exclusive. There's Rareable, that's open to everyone. There's Known Origins, that's application only. There's Foundation, that's invitation only. There's what's that one that begins with Maker's Place? Um, Pretty sure that's open to everyone. There's OpenSea as well. And that is a unique platform because everything on the other platforms I listed end up on OpenSea. OpenSea is the sea of all the fishes. So if the others are in this analogy or metaphor, if all the other platforms are lakes or rivers, this is the sea that all leads to the ocean. And so you can choose to mint on open. Minting is like publishing, just period. You can choose to mint on OpenSea or any of the other platforms, and they'll all go back to OpenSea. At this point in time, I've chosen for the works that I'm minting, for the collection that I'm working on, to use OpenSea because different platforms, and this is the video my dad had sent me and asked me about, so I made a video in response to him asking me this question. Different platforms can be very costly to put your artwork out. So for you, with your punk 80s band video, if you have only one video, it might be worth it, and you have access to an exclusive platform, it might be worth it to put it on the exclusive platform and pay what we call the gas fee, which is basically tax for minting or for publishing. If you had 100 videos from the punk band that you wanted to put out and you're aware that people didn't really know who you were then, so chances are they don't really know who the punk band is now, and you just want to have a place on the blockchain for these videos to exist on a marketplace, then I would say somewhere like OpenSea is a good idea because you don't have to pay a gas fee for every single mint that you do. Whereas Foundation, the invitation only one that I'm on, you do have to pay a specific fee every single time. So for my collection of work, which is pages from my physical book, which will be coming out this year, I'm minting the individual pages as NFTs as well. And because there's so many pages, like over 100, I've got them on OpenSea, so I don't have to pay exorbitant amounts of tax or gas to just have the pages out there. Does that
Could
answer
you
that?
could you explain this a bit more? I mean, you wrote a book, or
Yeah.
and it's going to be sold physically, like a physical book, but the pages are going to be sold as NFTs.
Yes.
How
So,
and why do you do that?
got you. So, the book is called Thank You, Damn It. It's a book on radical gratitude. I started it in January of last year. It's Carina's Corona Diary. So it's very much a journal and a documentation of everything we saw last year. I did not know the pandemic was happening when I started it. And then that happened. So it has documented everything down to the T. And The pages or the book itself will be in physical print. The second edition of the book will also have augmented reality involved. So I'm really excited about that because of my immersive tech interests. And you'll see like the various pages have things from the physical world. There's a sage leaf here and a um, like a bug's carcass. I don't know, and various like plant matter. And then you'll flip to another page and there's gold leaf, and then you'll see like, oh, this is Shiva, and then there's a piece of paper here that's quoting James Baldwin. So you'll hover your phone over it and it'll pop up onto your phone and give you information about the actual book itself, and that's in the physical. So that's one part of what I'm doing. And then I'm minting the pages as NFTs to create them as digital assets that can create some passive income because it already exists. So selling them as NFTs is just an additional form of selling them. And they're completely unique because it's just selling the original piece as a digital form on the blockchain.
You had a word for this, fidgetal, or no? What is it? Could you
Phygital, yeah, that's like
fidgetal?
that's a new term. Yep,
So it's
phygital,
both.
physical, digital.
So it's both physical and digital.
Yes.
Ah, okay. What about the other objects? I mean, I see you have other stuff on the wall. Is
Yeah, those
it's
are I have original oil paintings. That's what I do. That's my one of my largest scale offers, and that's what my ideal clients go for is the collectible luxury artwork pieces that can exist, in sometimes a corporate building or as a mural, but a lot of the times just as an individual asset for an art collector.
there's another thing about this, when it's on the blockchain. It's
Someone said,
verified.
super cool learning so much from you.
Sorry.
Someone commented, super cool learning so much from you.
Oh, oh, great. There's a comment. Yeah. I'm just looking at you. I'm not looking at the comments. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's
Mm.
okay.
But I mean, talking about, for instance, fake art. Since this is on the blockchain, it's verified and trusted. So
Yes.
it's not possible to sell fake art anymore. Or
I mean, as there's a woman named Carol Vick, and she's been in the blockchain law sector for over a decade. And she said something early on that really resonated with me. And she was just saying, like, criminals will always find a way, but there is definitely truth to what you're saying that it's verified and then trusted. So it's got my name attached to my public wallet on my art. Whoever you are, once you collect it, it will always have a paper trail of it existing with me to begin with. So you'll know that I was the artist no matter who owns it. Whereas with a physical painting of mine or of any artist, without a certificate of authenticity, and even with, we can't always trust that it is verified as that artist. There's pieces of art that, you know, we can look at and think, it looks like a Da Vinci, it smells like a Da Vinci, it tastes like a Da Vinci, but is it one? We don't know. So without the written verification attached to the piece, it's harder to know. We have to verify. We just trust that it is that thing, and then we verify it in the physical world, but no longer. We now have it verified, and then we can trust.
one maybe last thing we should cover before we finish off. I mean, we talked about the technology, how it works, and we talked about how you mint it and how you sell it and how you can actually have it resold and still earn money from it. But how do you get discovered? I mean, how do you do marketing in this space?
That is definitely a challenge. You do it with discipline and you do it with patience and consistency. I mean, not I've made this point and I will continue to make it because it's so important and I don't want to ever create a false illusion for especially any artists aspiring. Not all people minting NFTs will be profitable. I would say probably 95% of people will not. That is difficult. There's a lot of people rushing to it right now. If you are not dedicated to your personal brand, to being an artist through and through, it's going to be really challenging to be able to be making any kind of money or to have a lucrative business in this realm. Period. In terms of marketing, I have all kinds of strategies. I'm building teams of creative people around my company that are helping me, from virtual assistants to just general strategy and support, coaching, and things like that, that are, becoming a part of my team. And that's what is required. It's really hard to market yourself as an artist. Like, it's a pain point for a lot of people, just in general marketing, but especially artists, because our job here on earth is to create, not to tell people about what we create. That's no longer true in the digital age. So you either suck it up and make the effort that it takes, or you fall behind. And it's a heartbreaking thing for a lot of people to hear, but it's real. So, for me, I utilize all the channels where I can gain organic reach. I am heavy on Twitter because that's where I've followed the trends. People in the NFT space utilize Twitter, especially. And the biggest thing, though, and really this goes for marketing anything, you care. You care about the individual people that you're talking to because they're human beings, and building relationships, forming connection, and inevitably building community is the real way to do it.
Why is Twitter the place to sort of market it?
I think
Why
it's
why
because
not Instagram if it's pictures or
of
anything?
links. You can't link a post on Instagram on the platform. You can't write in the copy of a post. It would make sense if Instagram did that. It would be over for Twitter, because for in terms of NFTs, because if you could make it where you could click a link in the caption of an image post on Instagram, yeah, there would be no question we'd be using Instagram. But because you can't, um, you can tweet with the link to your OpenSea, and people will tweet. Shill SHILL is like, tell me about your work, like show your work to me, give me the link. So people will put out tweets like that, show me your NFTs, and we all collectively like comment back with a link to your profile, and non collectors will look at those posts and they might find you through a post like that.
You mentioned that you have a company and you hire people. So is this new way of dealing with art, has it is it like when you talk about other digital technologies, that you get rid of the middleman and you can make it frictionless and so on? I mean, will you become more independent from doing this?
Absolutely. I mean, it's beautiful. My company is Art by CDK LLC. I'm CDK. So talk about independence. Like, it's named after me. My art is the same way. I've signed it since middle school, and that's the logo to my brand. But in terms of NFTs, like, foundationally and to the core, what this does is it enables us to be autonomous. And the whole point is sovereignty, self sustainability. So, as an artist, yeah, it cuts out a lot of friction, and it cuts out the middleman. And it really does bring about a lot of questions to the way that we have traditionally traded art, in particular, as an asset, because we don't really need galleries in the same way as we used to. Um, they're not going to be irrelevant anytime soon. They're the oldest institutions in this country and in England, like literally the oldest. Um, But I'm pretty sure that they got really scared once this happened, the galleries. So, there's a lot of new things happening, and it is a revolution.
I'm just thinking one thing we didn't talk about, because now you talk about trading art. The currency you use for buying NFTs will be a cryptocurrency. I mean, you can't really buy it in Danish kroners or in dollars, US dollars, can you?
No, you can't, but there are ways to now buy Ethereum with a credit card or a debit card. So there will be ways very soon to be able to just like see my NFT on my website and, oh, you don't have a cryptocurrency wallet? That's fine. You can buy the exact amount here with a debit card and immediate transfer, because the blockchain works like that. So it'll be it'll be extremely simple soon.
And you will make your income in Ethereum.
That's how I've been making it, yes.
And I'm not quite sure, will Ethereum, does it gain value at the same speed as Bitcoin? It doesn't, but close to, or
Well, I can tell you it's a very volatile currency, but I see long term it will be growing, likely to be as big as Bitcoin. And I mean, even just since I started with Ethereum, the rate of the currency itself when I got in the game was like 1700 for one Ethereum, and now it's over 4,000, or it's fluctuated up to over 4,000. And if you follow the trend, just like in Forex or foreign exchange, like it goes up. So I certainly don't see it going anywhere. And inevitably, I do see it going up the trend. It'll go up and down like any market.
okay, Karina, I'm not quite sure what I should thank you, or because I'm actually, you're the guest in my podcast, and
I'm grateful to you.
and I'm the guest in your show, so I'm not quite sure who should finish off and say thank you and so on. But do you have anything, some famous last words, or no? That's not the correct way to say it, but a piece of good advice for people moving into this to this field before we end it off.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say pay attention, ask questions, listen, ask more questions, and inevitably take action. Because, I like to say, how many people almost collected artwork from the world's highest grossing artists? A lot. Like a lot. But if you take action, then you can actually see the benefit from that. But again, only take action once you are informed. Like, that's where asking questions and paying attention comes into play. That's what I would have to say about that. I will say famous last words to you, though, that I'm extremely grateful, radically grateful for you. And I'm really glad that we were able to have a conversation despite our technical difficulties in the beginning, which is like a 2021 requirement for any conversation, it feels like.
Yeah, I guess so. But well, we made it work. But
We
it's great, and
certainly.
thank you for inviting me. I mean, it's um, it's been great, and I think my listeners will enjoy your explanations because they're very straightforward and simple. And good luck with the book.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm excited to meet some of your listeners and to open up, the community exchange among my network with LinkedIn and the people that are going to be listening to this. And I guess I'll say to your listeners that if you liked any part of this conversation, please find me and reach out. I love looking through the DMs from messages of people who have heard something educational, especially. And you can find me at Carina Krehl, that's Carina, on any major social platform. And you can find my artwork on OpenSea by searching my name, Carina, and my last name, Krehl. And I'm just grateful to you. If anyone has additional questions, reach out, because I'm always having conversations like this.
Cool. Yeah, you do this 3 times a week.
That's right. I try to stick with that. I'm very regimented, and sometimes it doesn't work out, but for the most part, it is Tuesday, Thursdays, and Sundays I do my live stream.
Cool. Well, thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you. And yes, you too.